Hello my fellow Netians, and welcome to this video in which I am going to talk about migraines. I don't know where to start. I've been trying to do collab videos when it comes to the invisible illness discussion that I've been attempting to initiate, but I'm currently working on a project for my Writing for Social Change class in which we are making a website as a part of our campaign to help invisible illnesses be more recognized, be it mental illnesses, physical illnesses, disabilities, learning disabilities, and the like. So I put out a survey and approximately 50 people responded to it. One of the most common disorders that the respondents had were migraines. And so in this campaign, we are going to be talking about migraines, so I wanted to make this video in order to answer some questions that people generally have. So the first question is, how did I get diagnosed with migraines? To be honest, it was a very long process. I wasn't diagnosed until late middle school, but I had had migraines since elementary school. So the difference between a migraine and a headache, because that is also a commonly asked question, is that headaches are usually just head pain as far as I'm aware, but migraines can be triggered by scents. You can have bright lights and loud noises which make your migraine worse. You can have associating auras, which I can talk about a little bit later. And so when I first started going to the doctor, I went to my primary care physician first. And this was my pediatrician because at the time I was under 10 years old. And I would tell her that I constantly had headaches, and she attributed them to stress and said, but in my head I was thinking, what does a 10-year-old have to be stressed out about? Like, school isn't all that difficult yet. I thought I had a fairly decent friend group, or I had a few people I was comfortable with. And so over the next few years, I kept going back to the doctor saying, I get headaches all the time, I get headaches all the time. We hadn't realized they were migraines yet. And eventually, I was referred to a neurologist, and the neurologist said the same thing. I was probably in 4th or 5th grade at this point, and they were saying, oh, you're just stressed, so your head hurts. I was finally diagnosed with migraines by my second neurologist in middle school. I think it was 7th or 8th grade I was finally diagnosed with them, and I got started on different medication. Because my migraines were so frequent, I got started on a preventative medicine so that my migraines would be less frequent or have less severity to them. In order to be diagnosed with chronic migraines, I think the criteria is you have to have at least 15 migraines a month. And that means multiple migraines every single week. And it can be really difficult to do school when you suffer from migraines because it takes so much out of you. So if you normally get up, you turn on the lights to get ready for school, you're sitting in a classroom where people are talking, you have to go outside where the sun is bright, all of those things are made so much more difficult when you have a migraine. Because like I said before, lights can make it worse, sound can make it worse. The scent of the flowers outside, if it's springtime, can make your migraine worse. And sometimes medication doesn't always help. It won't make the migraine go away, but it will help it go down in severity. So I think I have 2 or 3 rescue meds, is what they're called, for when I have an attack that won't go away. So one of my main triggers is a change in barometric pressure. And usually the pressure outside drops before it is going to rain or snow. Or if I'm in an airplane and we're going up and down, even though the cabin is pressurized, there's still that different fluctuation. And so my head hurts a lot at those times. I cannot control the weather. Believe it or not, that is one trigger that I cannot control. I can control some of the other triggers. I don't buy floral scented air fresheners because floral scents make my migraines worse and they can trigger migraines. So instead I always have sweet scents. So my apartment that I share with Lindsay and Maddie right now has a chocolate cocoa scent to it, and I think it's lovely. Last year I had a sort of pumpkin cinnamon smell. Okay, so one of the questions that I saw online is, how do you manage the pain? Sometimes you can't. I tend to retreat to the quiet darkness when I have a migraine. Sometimes it's helpful if I put my hands around my head and I sort of push in, because somehow that helps to relieve the pressure. There have been days where if my meds don't work, I get ice packs and I just hold them around my head like this, because they can be localized. Mine are usually in the back of my head, like the crown, but the back. A lot of people get temporal migraines, or like right here by their sinuses, they get sinus migraines, or they just have like lower quadrant or upper quadrant. And so I will put an ice pack there and I'll sort of like squeeze my skull and hope that it gets a little better, and take meds and try to fall asleep. It is extremely difficult when I have a migraine and I have to go to class, because the lights are stimulating and the noise is stimulating, and I've already got a sensory disorder, so adding a migraine on top of that to the regular stress that I already face can be extremely difficult. There have been days where I've had to miss class because I just can't be in the classroom. It can also be really difficult to finish homework, because if my homework involves a lot of reading, that's a lot of concentration, and because I have poor vision, reading can give me migraines after like 5 minutes of close reading. And as an English major, that's very difficult, so I tend to listen to audiobooks. However, if I have a migraine, listening to audiobooks is difficult in itself. And so depending on what the class is, sometimes I have to email my professors and say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't complete this assignment. Is there any way I can have an extension? And sometimes getting connected with disability services at your school can help you to stay caught up, and will mean that you won't get penalized for something that you can't control. I want to go back to what an aura is, because sometimes before your migraine sets on with the pain, you'll have a sort of aura. And so for me, an aura is I'll see like blinking lights, or it'll get cloudy vision, or I'll see like little floaty dots, and that tells me that a migraine is coming. Another thing that I find really interesting is that I can only crack my neck when my head is starting to hurt. So if I go like this, my head doesn't crack right now, or my neck doesn't crack right now because I don't have a migraine. But yesterday when it was raining, I was able to go like this and my neck would crack all the way around. So I'm not really sure what the correlation of that is, but that is something that I have noticed. Some of my friends know that I have migraines. They don't always necessarily understand. There was one time my freshman year where I had such a bad migraine that I was just like curled in on the floor and I could not move. There have been times where I've been close to going to the hospital for my migraines, but thankfully my neurologist has given me a sort of combination of meds that I can take that would be very similar to what they would give me at the hospital, so that I don't actually have to go to the hospital. How often do you feel dizzy or experience vertigo as a part of your migraine attacks? If I have a really bad migraine, typically my migraines will be about a 7 to 8 on the pain scale out of 10. If my migraine is a 9, sometimes it will impair my speech, because my head hurts so much that I can't even bear listening to myself make noise. And so I will start to sort of like slur my speech or mumble or not be very coherent. And with that, sometimes I'll get dizzy if I try to stand up and move, especially if I've been crouched over holding on to my head a lot. Does the smell of gasoline, perfume, bleach, or cinnamon-scented pine cones aggravate your headaches? Yes. Perfume and bleach, definitely. Gasoline can. I'm not sure if cinnamon-scented pine cones were, because that's a sort of sweet scent, and as I said earlier, sweet scents typically tend to be okay with me. If you have any more questions about what it's like to live with migraines, or you also have migraines, feel free to ask questions or leave comments in the comment section below and let me know how you deal with your migraines, or if you have any questions concerning migraines, if you think you might have migraines. If you are in pain, go to your doctor. If they keep telling you, oh, it's all in your head, it's all in your head, and you know it isn't, keep going. Be persistent, because you know your body best. It took me multiple years to finally be diagnosed with migraines, and since that time, they have significantly gotten better. There were days where I had migraines every single day, and medication would make it less severe in pain, but it wouldn't completely go away. Now there are days where I don't have migraines. Like, I don't have a migraine right now, and that's fantastic. Unfortunately, teenagerdom is a very bad time for migraines, at least it was for me, and there was a point where my doctor was just like, oh, it's gonna get worse as you go into your teens, and I was like, gee, thank you so much for that information. So it is difficult, but it is doable, and so if your head hurts, I recommend you to go get help if you can. If you notice that it's something constant, keep track of what you eat, what your surroundings are like, what your activity level is, what your stress load is, because a lot of times you have to keep charts in order to show, hey, this is how much my head hurt, this is when it hurt, this is what I was doing that day, to see if there are correlations, because sometimes a change in lifestyle can help with your migraines. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. You can comment below and let me know any questions or concerns you have about migraines. And as always, thanks for watching.